topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart.
Hello and welcome to It's Your Voice, the show that hosts enriching conversations in diversity. My name is Behia Yaksan. I'm a core alignment coach, an emotional wisdom training specialist, and a diversity educator. We have a website you can look at if you want to check out some of the programs and workshops I lead on helping people recognize entrained patterns of bias that we have learned in our culture. And my workshops help us unlearn them, step out of them, and better yet, create new inclusive patterns that make everyone happier. And that website address is knowwhatyoumwantcoaching.wordpress.com. Today, I'm really honored to have a guest who is in New York City and is very busy, but made time to join me, Amanda Eke. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. And Amanda is an artist, a poet, a filmmaker. She's been in the media. She has a lot of different mediums. I would like to share how I met Amanda by attending a workshop sponsored by an incredible leader, Sandy Holman, who is a CEO of the Culture Co-op. And it was part of a Culture Co-op series called Untold Stories from Our Ancestors and Elders. And Amanda was a special guest there as well, and shared a clip that she did as a newscaster, if that's the right word for it. It was a primetime special for ABC. And you also have a podcast, which I want people to learn more about. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
I was so curious about hearing what you would like to share about your journey and your story as becoming a woman in the media and moving to America, and what you want us to know about when you found your voice, because so much of what you do is supporting other people and finding their voices. So I really would love to hear about how and when you found your voice, the challenges you ran up against, and so the support you found.
Yeah. Well, where would you like me to begin? that was a billion questions in one.
I'm really good at asking a billion questions. I'm sorry. So let's see. The first one would be like, how old were you when you knew I have got something to say and I want people to hear it?
Yeah, well, let's see. I was about first time I knew I had something to say and I want people to hear it. I don't know. That's a really tough question. I feel like that's a tough one. I feel like since I was pretty young, probably around 5 or 6, there were things I knew I wanted to say. I think I grew up in a very conservative culture. My background is Nigerian. I had a very conservative religious family. So my voice was stifled quite a bit, but I always kind of had an expiration date for when I knew I would kind of just break free from that and kind of just go be who I wanted to be in some weird way. So I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't think there was an exact moment, but I think a series of moments throughout childhood, throughout adulthood. I mean, like I'm still learning every day how to use my voice, to help myself first and foremost. I mean, it's such an evolving process, But yeah, I mean, I don't think it wasn't necessarily a specific moment or anything. It was just definitely a series of multiple moments that you can't properly even put the right words to communicate those feelings that you always have in childhood. But you can't really even communicate it effectively. But yeah, it's been a series of unfortunate events.
That's a really good answer. A series of multiple moments. And did you say fortunate or unfortunate events? Did you say fortunate?
Both unfortunate,
Both.
unfortunate, and fortunate events. So many
Yeah.
good, bad. I mean, so many things have led me to here. So it's so many things have led me to finding my voice. And like I said, it's an evolving process. I'm still trying to capture it, refine it, tune it, all those good things, like a car.
And when so your life started in Nigeria, is that right?
No, I was born and raised in Hayward, California. So, but
Okay.
my parents are Nigerian immigrants, but born and raised in Hayward, California. Moved to Sacramento. I must have been probably like 1 years old, moving to Sacramento, California, and kind of just yeah, moved around after high school, just moved around quite a bit. So I've lived in a lot of different places at this point in my life.
Have they all been in the United States, or have you lived overseas also?
Yeah, so I lived United States. I lived in Japan for a year or and some change. I lived in Malta, which is a Mediterranean country off of the coast of Italy and Northern Africa. I lived in yeah, I mean, I lived in Nepal for a little bit. I mean, I've lived definitely United States. I've lived in a couple different places. So not just visited for a holiday, but actually lived, worked there, had like a citizenship card, ID, everything. So I've definitely hopped and skipped quite a bit.
Mm. Wow, that's interesting. We lived in North Africa when I was in eighth and ninth grade, and we were able to go to Malta a couple of times. So I noticed that when I was looking at your workshops. Is that when you had a Fulbright? You had a Fulbright, or was that in Japan?
Yeah, I had a Fulbright fellowship when I lived in Malta. So I stayed there for a year. It was really a great opportunity. Got to meet a lot of, I mean, just did a lot of diplomatic work. So, that type of work really gets you engaged in a way you see the world. I got to meet foreign ministers, presidents of countries. I got to do a speech at the presidential palace of Malta. Just those types of once in a lifetime opportunities. I recount back on, and I still can't believe that I was able to do those things. So yeah, that Fulbright fellowship really was a huge stepping stone in like my not only my career but just my life in general.
That is such an honor to earn a Fulbright. That is no small feat. So that's really impressive, and
For sure.
congratulations. And
Thank
were
you. I
you were
appreciate that. Thank you so much.
oh yeah, I was like, wow, Fulbright. That means a lot. And
Yeah.
when you were like representing the US, you were like a US ambassador in some ways when you were.
Yeah, so you're basically I was a cultural ambassador for the USA, for the cultural ambassador for the USA via the European Union in Malta. So yeah, basically spreading culture, doing engaging workshops with the folks living in Malta, different populations, migrants, refugees, being able to teach English as well as kind of teach scholarship at university. So you're really all over the place. I mean, it's a really, really amazing opportunity. And I still have such great connections in Malta, friendships that'll last a lifetime. So yeah, no, it was an amazing, amazing opportunity.
That's fantastic. And where
Yeah.
did you go? What were your next steps in your evolving work as an artist in different mediums?
Yeah, the next step after that, after Malta, I went to grad school at Syracuse, And it was there. I mean, like that was really kind of when I got my I just felt really I felt the independence when I went to grad school. I really felt like I don't know, like I just felt like it was just I felt really, I guess, hungry for opportunities and hungry for trying to achieve. And I really do look back at that time in my life, just really, I was just so hungry. I mean, I still am, but that was just the beginning of my hunger for just wanting to do more with my art and really trying to go full force with it. There, I remember in grad school, that's when I started the Poet Speaks workshop. So the Poet Speaks workshop, I tour around the globe, giving people workshops on how to create, write, and think spoken word poetry. What makes my workshop different than regular spoken word workshops is we teach people all about African oral traditions. So, like I said, I'm Nigerian. Teach people all about Igbo oral traditions and how we see a lot of these African oral traditions, even in contemporary times, in the poetry that we read today, the literature we read today, and just kind of bringing people back to what is our oral histories as people. And yeah, I was in grad school. I was barely living on like $1,000 a month, but somehow I was managing to still travel. People were paying to, have me travel here and there to go give the workshop. There I went to travel. In those 2 years of grad school, I must travel Nepal, Trinidad and Tobago, all these across the USA, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, just to give this workshop. And so that was such a kind of reckoning time for me to really get really excited about creating poetry for myself, and creating that platform. In addition, when I was in grad school, my thesis, I ended up making a film based off of Malta. The film was called Bidla. Basically, the idea of the film was in Malta, they have this new form of music. They have a hybridized genre where they mix rap as well as Maltese folk music, and they've combined it into one genre. I went back to the island 2 years later after I had left from my full break. Went back to the island and shot a film there. Shot a documentary film on this new genre of music, combining again Maltese folk music and hip hop. Then it just literally just turned into a whole machine in itself, and then it's still going to this day. We have plans to release the film in Australia. It's going to have an Australian premiere later this year. Going to go out there, the UK, etc. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of just how the wheel started turning after I lived in Malta for a year. Then I went to New York and Syracuse, graduated. The pandemic hit, so that was such a amazing time to graduate from grad school after a freaking pandemic. Um, but the pandemic had hit, and then I had the opportunity to go abroad again, and go to Japan. I lived in Japan for a year and was a cultural ambassador for a year for the JET program. Taught at university English, and then that's when I started the podcast called the Poet Speaks podcast, based off of the workshop, and where I just talk to poets from all around the world. So it's kind of, and then after that, that's kind of I moved to Minnesota to work at ABC for the ABC affiliate out there to be on TV, and then now we're kind of in the new form where I'm now working on my own independent projects, and seeing where things go. So again, it's been so much, so much.
Wow. Well, I wanted to back up a little bit. There's a couple words that cut out when you were in Japan. You said you were part of the JET program. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, JET program.
And can you
Yes.
explain what that is?
Yeah, so it's just Japanese English teaching. So basically, it's just an
Okay.
exchange program. You represent the USA as a cultural ambassador and teach English across universities in Japan in classrooms. So yeah,
Okay. And when you were in Nepal, was that to give some workshops, or were
yeah,
you an ambassador?
yep,
Okay. Wow.
yeah. It
Which
was just
part of Nepal?
primarily. What was it? Kathmandu.
Yeah.
Kathmandu. Yeah. Hmm.
Wow. I lived in Nepal for 3 years. So
Oh,
I'm
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Wow. How did
Great
people?
place. Yeah, one of my favorite places to travel.
Super kind, generous, humble people. Uh, love them dearly. Have a lot of gratitude for people from Nepal. So I'm curious, how do people find out
Absolutely.
about like did you have connections to Nepal and before you went there, or any other country? Like, how does it line up that people are signed up for your workshop in advance and you have, or do you go there and then spread the word and
No,
then
you know,
the people
it's
come?
just it's more so just using the power of the internet and the power of art. It's really just reaching out, just doing those cold calls and cold emails. That's really how it began. That's how those connections started and how they've lasted. It wasn't anything more or less than that. I just really reached out with, with my resume, with what I had to offer. And there were certain places on my bucket list and certain places that I knew I really wanted to experience and engage with the art and the culture that would really take me out of my comfort zone to help me become a better artist. So that's really how I did it. Just reached out via that.
Wow, that takes perseverance and commitment.
Absolutely.
Not to mention the talent that you bring to people and bring out of people.
Yeah, it's no joke, but it's definitely I always look back. It's always worth it's worth the perseverance, you know. It really is worth it at the end of the day because you get to just experience things that that are a privilege. It's a privilege to be an artist, and it's a privilege to be an artist that spreads their work around the world. That's very rare. A lot of people don't get the opportunity to do that as an artist. So
That's brilliant. So when you were in Minnesota, how did you get involved? It doesn't seem like an easy thing to get hired by a major broadcast company and become a. Were you called a newscaster or media? I don't know what
yeah,
exactly
broadcast
was.
journal.
Yeah. How was that? Was that how was that getting into that position,
Yeah,
and how long did you stay?
yeah, I mean it's a lot. I think it's a very intense industry. It's a very intense field. It's not for everyone. It's just off of the recommendations of what the work I was doing already with my podcast, with my show. It's kind of how we tumbled into that. So, and it's something. Yeah, I mean it's the industry is no joke. So that's why I try to tell people it's no joke. You really do have to have tough skin and really a lot of grit to you to be able to last in that industry and really make your mark. But yeah, I'm still in it now. Anchoring, I have a couple shows out right now. Working on developing a new show for broadcast for national TV. So you just always have to keep those gears plugging away. It's just how I like to look at it. Everything that I've done, I feel like it's leading me up to where this next phase of my career and just artistry life. So
I was really struck by the speaking of Minnesota, because you did this story while you were in Minnesota, if I am remembering correctly, of the untold story of
yeah,
families that are connected, Black families that are connected to nature and have homes and places to go in nature, which to this day we just does not happen enough, and it's very rare to hear about it. And the relationship with nature is just invaluable to all human beings, and it was just really highlighted a particular community, and I'd love you to share about that.
yeah. So the name of that primetime special was called "The Legend of Lake Adney." This special is about Black families that have owned a property up north in Minnesota for the past 100 years. So it's been literally the lake is called Lake Adney. About 80% at one point during the 1950s, the lake was 80% had Black ownership of cabins and land. that's completely unheard of, especially during a time of the 1950s with a lot of civil unrest, racial unrest. So, what made that lake so special was because of that sacredness of Black ownership, and this idea of Black people owning land is so new to so many people because we don't see it, but it's nothing new because it's been happening. It's just we have to uncover and tell these stories. So that was a primetime special. It aired last year, February 2023. So literally just about a year ago now. And yeah, it's the story. We're still having legs on it. I'm looking to, partner up with HBCUs to possibly do a tour to come present this primetime special to more people, get more eyes on this. Possibly, if he's listening, Governor Tim Walz, we'd love to make this actually like a proclaimed land, like they do with other places in Minnesota, because of this deep, deep, amazing history and just this amazing part of American history. It's amazing part of Black African American history is so pivotal. So, it was such an amazing story to shoot because it really did put me, it's so many things happened at once with that story. I actually found out about that story on a message board when I was living in Japan. I just read it on a message board, and people were talking about Lake Adney. I had never heard of it. It was just a chat social media message board. And I remember I got the call that I got the job for ABC, and nearly 2 months later, I was like, oh my gosh, and they just kind of came to me like, hey, look, I think I can tell this story here. So that's what we just ended up doing. And I look back on that, just you just can't believe you did it. You just can't even believe that you were able to put that piece that together, calling people. Some people had died that had owned property, recovering lost books, records of places, people, diaries. I mean, just the history of people is just, it's in your things, it's in your items, it's in the land that you walked on. And that was a once in a lifetime story. And it was just, I can't wait to see what the future still holds for that story, and what we can do with it. As of right now, it's been lucky enough, it's been archived at the Missouri Black Archives. So right now it's archived there on the website, and you can now see it if you go to the museum. You can see my new special there on that kiosk, press play. So it's just those types of opportunities. I mean, oh man, it gives me goosebumps to even know that was even lucky enough to be a part of that. So yeah, that was the Legend of Lake Adney. um, phenomenal people I got to meet, and just living history.
And that's so awesome that you just followed that lead. Like
Yeah,
you saw
yeah,
that
no, it
when you were
is.
in Japan. Yeah, and you just like took the, and I'll just use the word, maybe co-created the alignment. You just like, you did your part to help that line
Yeah,
up.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's serendipity. I have no other word to describe it. It was meant to be.
Yeah, it's very it's a very powerful, moving story. And so in the
Um,
timeline, um, I don't know how recent was that or how long ago was that?
so yeah, like I said, it was February 2023, so a year ago.
That's right. You did say that. Wow. Okay. And when did you start doing your Poet Speak um, podcast?
So that started, let's see, 2022. So yeah, we just celebrated in November our 2 year anniversary. So yeah, November 2022. So that was some yeah, now 2 years. Can't even believe that. So now we're on, coming out this month, February 2024. Our sixth season is coming out this month. So yeah, I can't even believe that I've had 6 seasons of that. That's pretty phenomenal. But yeah.
And do your workshop feed into the podcast?
Yeah, it's all the same kind of LLC, the Poet Speaks. So it's the workshops,
Hmm.
the podcast, media. So it's all kind of all linking back to the idea of oral traditions. Why do we need to get our words out? Why are we writing? Why are we using our voices? So it's all within the same umbrella. It all feeds, one feeds the other.
And do people of all backgrounds and all skin colors sign up for it? Or from all, since it's
Oh
hybrid, you
yeah.
said it's a hybrid. Yeah.
Sorry, say that again, please.
Oh, you answered the question. It's hybrid, so people can join online as well as in person, right?
Oh, you mean the workshop or the podcast?
Yeah. I'm sorry, my brain switched to the workshop. I probably didn't say that out loud.
Yes, the workshop. Yes, the workshop. The workshop is hybrid, so we do online, in person. I think in person by far those the best. Going to these places, different countries, different environments, and actually teaching the word is by far the best. Zoom is not the best for like actual artistry and connection. It's just not the same. Doesn't hit the same.
For sure. For sure. It's
Yeah.
not the same as being in the same room with other human beings.
No.
Well, I
No,
was
absolutely not.
gonna I'll put you on the spot, but you can think about it while we play a clip. I wonder if you wanna speak some poetry or some spoken word after we show a clip, or if that's something like you don't feel like doing today.
Sure. Let's do it. I'm down. Let's
Oh,
do one.
cool. Cool. And our engineer Rebel just lined it up, so we'll play. This is a great infomercial commercial word about your workshops. So I want everybody to hear this.
All right, well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at today. Today, we are in Seattle, Washington, and we're at Hugo House, all right? Now, Hugo House is a home to so many writers come through here, but what is special today, we're having the Poet Speaks workshop. Now, the Poet Speaks workshop, it's a workshop I started myself. Now, for me, I didn't know how to read till I was about 7 years old, and I couldn't speak until I was about 4. And for me, what really made a big difference in my life was poetry. Reading poetry, creating poetry, listening to poetry, going to sleep to poetry, doesn't matter. Poetry really changed my life. Now, I made the Poet Speaks workshop because I want people to be able to tell their own narrative, just like I have through my own poetry. Now, specifically what I do with the Poet Speaks, we look at African spirituality, we look at African literacy, and we look at African oral traditions, all right? Over 5,000 languages, 700 are spoken in Nigeria. Igbo in itself, I mean, there's a billion, I mean, not a billion, but there's so many ways in which to speak it. Now, it's such a big topic, but what makes it really, really amazing is being Nigerian American, I really look into Nigerian oral traditions, more specifically, Igbo oral traditions. And really the workshop, we do everything from a history lesson of what Nigerian and Igbo oral traditions is, as well as some many West African and other African oral traditions. So you get to learn a little bit about everything. Oral traditions in West Africa, oral traditions all over Africa. In addition, you get to write your own poetry and you get to perform it.
It seems sad to attempt to leap across the canyon, but see, I've got wings like beacons, the wind like hands beneath me, guiding me, leading me onwards and upwards.
If you replace me, who else will give you a dissertation on how the Star Wars prequels are literally modern Shakespeare?
Now, what do you bring to the workshops? What you really need to bring, a pencil, paper, laptop, whatever which way for you to write down your poetry. So anything, any unit, any type of tool to write. And really after that, bring yourself. Bring yourself to the space. Bring your best self. There's really an engaging experience where we really take out a lot of what we feel, what we think inside, and really put it into our own narrative. So you too can have the poet speak inside of you. Now, when you enter into the Poet Speaks workshop, I want you to come in with an open mind. Maybe you've never written before. Maybe you have written before. Maybe you're a pro writer. Maybe you're an author of many, many poetry chapbooks. However, what I want you to come into is realize this is a place to tell your own narrative. When people walk in, you may not have any idea about African literature, you may not have any idea about what oral traditions even mean. One of the biggest things that we teach in this workshop is how to really create your own narrative. How do you really tell your story? One of the opening things that we do is, what is your name? Think about it. Our names carry everything with us. Just think about it. What does your name mean?
and come back to me, okay? 1 minute.
Where does your name come from? What does your name mean? What does your name mean to you? That way we can really teach people how to write their own narrative. It is so important that we keep our oral traditions alive. Now, many people may not know about ancient indigenous oral traditions, specifically African or Nigerian and Igbo oral traditions. But that's precisely why we have to keep doing this. We have to keep our voices alive, past to present to future. Oral traditions are what have carried us throughout life. Oral traditions are anywhere from the air we breathe. The poetry is in the air. It's everywhere that we look. Our songs, our music, it's in everything. So it's so important that we understand these things. The stories of our lives are written everywhere through words, through spoken word poetry.
That's fascinating. How you embodied poetry, how you see it, how you shared, how you see it and hear it and feel it everywhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. There we go. Everyone go, you can go to my website, amandaeke.com, just spelled AMANDAEKE.com to go book the workshop as well as listen to the podcast. So there we go.
Great. I have a few more questions, but tell me, do you want to speak some poetry now or after I ask a few more questions?
Oh, it's up to you. It's your show. It's your show, not mine. I'm
Okay.
not the show.
Okay.
I'm not the show host today. Up to you. I'm whenever you want me
Okay.
to.
Oh, thank you. So it's fascinating what you shared in that video clip we just played about how listening to poetry and having it read to you helps you learn how to speak.
Mm.
That totally makes sense, right? Just hearing the
Yeah,
rhythm
yeah,
and it totally makes sense.
yeah.
But that's, I don't know. I just loved it. Any other comments about that, or like, did your parents surround you with poetry, or did you show interest in poetry, and they went, "Oh, let's do this"? Like, how did you find it and get the reinforcement around you to hear it more and more?
Yeah, no, I was definitely in my household. I was more so I was a bit more a closet poet. I kind of kept those artistic endeavors that I had to myself completely. Um, I mean, so it was something I just did on my own, honestly. I was just finding joy just with a flashlight underneath my blanket at night in bed, reading poems, reading these books, writing my poems, honestly. So it was like I said when I left kind of the chicken's nest, which was my parents' house, that's when I really kind of just really flourished into really my artistry self. Honestly, as sad or
Hmm.
maybe joyful as that is, it was definitely not something. It was something I introduced to myself that I kind of just found through my own pursuits, honestly.
Hmm. Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that when I think about whether it makes sense to me or not, doesn't matter. But I feel like it's in a lot of families, it's hard to have art validated and cultivated.
Yeah,
It's not surprising that you're not the only artist, right? Who's had to
yeah.
do that on her own. So I was also curious, when were you able to? I don't know if you grew up knowing some of the oral traditions from different parts of Africa and Nigeria, or if that's again something you did later as an adult on your own to go back and study and travel. Did you travel through different parts of Africa?
Yeah, so that was something, a mix of both. So my grandfather was a poet. He had some books. We had his books in the house, just sprawled throughout the house. And we traveled to Nigeria. And then I think just through independent study myself, just kind of as you grow up in a certain culture, but then you then have another phase of your cultural background that you go through as an adult, where you kind of relearn things now through the eyes of an adult person. So I think
Mhm.
I definitely had a maturation process with my own culture as a
Mhm.
Nigerian girl. You know what I mean? So I had my own maturation process where I discovered my culture for myself, not just through the lens of my family. So it was a mix of both for sure. And yeah, being able to go to different parts of Africa now when I was a kid, now as an adult, is just two completely different mindsets, I think. So it's just such a blend of both that self discovery and also just what I grew up with.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. It's good to know. So I would love people to hear
Yeah,
anything you want to share with us, spoken word.
sure thing. All right. I'll read you a recent, well, not too recent, but a piece I've written here and there. So we, the
Thank you.
infatuated undertone, born inside the curved straight line, cracked keys somehow finding the beautiful black, white noise in outer space hands. It's difficult to explain ourselves. I see you, I hear you. Speaking in the language of angels, the luxury of the double tongued magic water, people of memory, a turn of your head finds a smile right above the water. Just a few feet to find breath, tar, wood, a shore, a safe place to build music from tears. The entire world inside one face. Nice to meet you again. We keep meeting our past, we keep running into our reflection. Introductions are a drowning exit, and we don't teach our children to swim. This is above sea level. I see you, I hear you. Coming up for air, adjusting the headphones, finding your tribe. A quick what up though? A quiet corner exchange testimony is a yes, yes, y'all. Coded hellos. Motor City still, there are flowers growing from inside this empty crawfish voodoo, and our father's wishes made this be this bottled spirit, this bread never broken, fed our families on the rocks, hand clap sounds, rim shot, ice stories, drinking sugar cane. Detroit rain hits your forehead, finds your neck when there is nothing left. We, the rooftop deck, the cross into the ever after railroad, the river of crystal currents, the solo walk to heaven, the dive hat, the master class. The vinyl moon lighting up the sky. This room is a constellation of notes and clocks. The 4 a.m. door knocks. It never leaves your body. Simplicity is so complex. Just swim towards the compass. Find your way to corner store profits. The sweet is always waiting. No keys necessary. Just slide your delicate fingers across my ribcage. Push you too real to be magic. Show them your colors, your majesty, your honesty, your fearlessness, your head nod. Then keep going till they can't find your sound in this atmosphere. No more. No more. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. When do you write, do images come to you and then words follow, or do words come? Like, do you see things visually internally as you're producing words?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think I see it both ways. I think it's more I feel it. I feel it when I'm producing words. I feel the momentum. I feel the heaviness of the words. Um, I don't know. I wouldn't say I see it in terms of I see myself as I'm interacting. I play an image in my head of what the scene looks like, whatever that means, the meaning of what my words are, and I feel the momentum of the words as I'm saying them. So that's an interesting question. I never thought about it like that.
Well, I think it came to me because I saw so many different images as I was listening to you, and
Mm,
it's just like a stream,
yeah,
a rolling film of this and this and then this and then this, and then it's like just so powerful and so heavy and so laden, like with
mm,
meaning. And I'm sure meanings beyond what
yeah,
what I
absolutely.
I
Yeah, no,
How was that?
absolutely. That piece in particular is definitely that's there's not even a name to it yet. I actually don't even name my pieces until until later. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of meaning, a lot of underground underpinnings of what that piece means to me, how it came together. Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing that.
absolutely. Thank you. No
And
problem.
when people are working with you to find their voice and find their words and speak their words, do I'm just imagining that there is an emotional process of when you get in touch with something meaningful and powerful and heavy that you want to express. And I'm wondering, I mean, I could be wrong and it could vary depending on the individual and that person's lives or that collective group of people's lives. Um, but is there a lot of, and yeah, is there a lot of like figuring out and talking through with you or other people to to reach the depths they want to reach, or is it just, or
Yeah,
is it
my
like,
process is pretty yeah, my process is pretty there's a pretty regulatory step-by-step process of writing spoken word poetry. But part of the reason why I bring in the oral tradition aspect of Igbo Nigerian culture is it is so emotion based. It doesn't follow the regulatory rules of writing and script the same way maybe poetry in the West does. And I think that to really that's just how I forecast how I write. I'm a very deep feeler, deep thinker, and I would say I push people. I want to push you to be who you are. I want people to really see who you are, especially as a poet and as you write. The workshop is for people any age, any skill level, but I really want to push you to be who you truly are. I don't think enough in our lives do we really are honest with who we are, and I that to me that's what's so beautiful about writing is you truly can be who you are and you put it down on paper and you profess it and speak it. And so there's very regulatory process of the step by step how to write, but then there's also these kind of activities that we do translating from Igbo to English, looking at some of these oral traditions in Nigeria and learning about these, griots, these people writing, why they write, and really, again, like I said in my promo video for the Post Speaks workshop, understanding your name, something as simple, an activity as simple as that we have really is so powerful for people to really dig into their depths, thinking about, what is your mom's name? Maybe if she changed her name or if your dad changed his name, where does your family come from? What does your name now mean? It was given to you, but what does it actually mean to you, right? Just those types of activities, again, I really want to push you to really be who you really are. I'm really so keen on that. Who are you? You know what I mean? Who are you really? Really push yourself, not shove yourself, but push yourself to really be honest with why you're writing, who are you writing to. And it's simplicity is so complex. It's as simple as ABC, to be honest with yourself, but most people, you can't do it. I know for me, it's hard to do that. Even in my writing, it's hard to be as honest and brutally honest. But it's something that I've found so much self care and joy in. So that's the process to really dig deep, dig deep to really write your story. Really dig deep. You only get one shot to do it, so why not make it the best?
that is awesome to have the opportunity to dig deep and to be pushed gently in a supportive environment to
Absolutely.
find out, find out who we really are authentically. And I noticed in the promo the first time I watched it and this time, and you just mentioned it, the importance of knowing what our name means. And I love, like you said, like not only where they came from and why the people who named you that, but also like what it has it become for you? What does it
Hmm.
mean to you now? That is so powerful, and I find way underexplored in the West, because
Yeah.
it can bring so much awareness about who you are, who you want to be. Do you want to fulfill that name? Do you want a different name?
Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
great, and that thanks for explaining that your process. It just sounds so enticing and I don't know, real and substantial. And how long does it take? Do people like yeah, how long do you have like a regular frame of time, or do people come back and repeat? Like what's the amount of time and how is it structured? I mean, I don't mean like outline how the time is used, but what's the time frame? Like is it a day, a weekend, a week?
Yeah, for the workshop, we do anywhere 2 hour classes to we've done a 16-week course for a university. So it's any and everything. I mean, it's however the organization, NGO, company I'm working with to collaborate to bring this to a group. It's really up. It just depends. I mean, but the shortest is 2 hours.
Okay.
Sometimes we have a 2 day workshop. So it just depends. It's a workshop that I've been able to shrink or extend. I mean, we could do this for a very long time. We do again like we've done a 16-week course for uni. I mean, this could be a whole year. I mean, there's so much with oral traditions to learn to create. So it's learning the history too. So it can be as long as we want it to be. But the shortest definitely would be 2 hours for a 2 hour workshop.
Wow, that's amazing. And I agree it could take easily a year, a lifetime.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, a lifetime. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. A uni was
Yeah.
smart enough to say, let's make this a course. That's a that's a smart uni.
I agree.
To find you and work with you is fantastic. So I see we only have like 3 minutes. I would love to give you a chance to for any kind of closing thought or to say how people can find your podcast and to how people can find your website, and then and your closing thoughts before we have to say goodbye.
Hey, you know what? I first off, thank you so much, Bahia, for having me on the show today. I had a good old funky time. The podcast, the Poet Speaks podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, every Deezer, Boxer, everywhere. Just a simple Google search. Everywhere you can find us. The Poet Speaks podcast, Poet Speaks workshop. We're open for business. At 2024, we're looking to release in more places, more countries. Please do go visit my page website, Amanda Eke, AmandaEke.com. Contact me via there for the contact page. Check us out. Check out all the things I'm working on. Working on a great TV show right now called Growing Pains with Amanda Eke, where I talk to teens all over the USA about the things that they're going through, bigger issues like race, sexuality, politics, everything, just in a roundtable type discussion. So that's some of the things I'm working on now. I'm also a host of the Black Mental Health Matters talk show. So check me out all throughout there and go check out my website. And, again, thank you so much for, I got to use my voice again today, Bahia. So I really appreciate it. And, that's what it's all about. So create more of these spaces so we can share and engage with each other. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And that all sounds awesome. I'm already following you. And I love that you Black mental health focus and Growing Pains with Amanda Eke. I can't wait to watch it. Thank you for producing so much good art for the world. Really appreciate you. And I want to also thank our engineer Rebel and our producer Dean Piper and everybody listening or watching today. And be sure to come back next week at 8 p.m. Eastern Time to It's Your Voice at Talk4TV or W4CY.com. And may we all have enriching conversations in diversity this week. Thank you again, Amanda.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate